Welcome to this little video that I'm doing of something which I found at the Public Record Office in Melbourne on the online website, and it's a survey map of the Loddon River in the area south of and up to Kerang, and we'll see on this map some very interesting things which I haven't seen before, and I think that you'll find it quite interesting. Now you'll see that the survey map is called the survey of part of the Loddon River, being the Yarrain of Sir Thomas Mitchell, scale of 2 inches to the mile. Now in pencil here we'll see Mr. Urquhart, year 1848. Well, it wasn't done in 1848 because there are parts of this map which have features that didn't exist back then, but I think that it was probably the 1848 was the map background, that backbone that was used perhaps by the surveyors to work this map up. And you'll see that it's got two sections, two tracts of river, and what they are a continuation. The one at the top is the river further to the south, and then it continues on the bottom section. Now this map is oriented differently to normal. It is oriented east-west. So the east is to the top, west is to the bottom, north is to the left, and south is to the right on this map. So it's a bit off-putting for a start, but you get used to it fairly quickly. So we'll just take you through the map. And up here in the top right-hand corner is the bottom or the most southerly portion of the map. And you can see it's a continuation of another survey from another sheet, so we haven't got that one yet. But anyway, there is we track along here. You'll see the little red lines which go between survey points. So the points at which the surveyors must have physically oriented themselves when they were drawing this map. So it's just incredible to think back to the 1860s and think of guys going out with rudimentary instruments and producing something like this, something that we would consider incredibly difficult without all our technological help that we've got these days. So it's an amazing thing to think that these maps were produced so skillfully back in such a long time ago. Now you'll see here in the middle of this section, Sir Thomas Mitchell's crossing of the Loddon in July 1836. So that was down well south of Appin, and we'll scroll further across, which is to the north, and we'll come to various markers like Godin's hut, Booth and Argyle's hut, stakes marking various survey points, and we get another Booth and Argyle hut, which is people who were pioneers on the Tregal station area. And you'll see at the extent of this part of the map, on the bottom corner you've got Lake Liaga shown, and the river just to the to the east of that. So then that part of the river continues on the lower part of this map. So we go down to the right hand side and to the lower part, and you'll see where that continues on from the upper section of this map. We come to McCallum's hut, and then we go across following the Loddon River, and we'll down this track, this line here, you'll see is Lake Merrin. There is Lake Merrin reproduced in fairly good, accurate reproduction of its shape, which again amazes me that they were able to do that back then. And so we continue further along through the Appin South area and to the Tregal station homestead, which is marked here. And then we come further along, Lewis and Campbell's hut. There are many of those along the Loddon River back in then. And then we come to the very interesting part of the Yes, very interesting indeed, this section of the map, which is, as you can see, has got the name Torringutton. and you'll see there's a bridge across the river, the Loddon Inn and the Bass Inn are marked here, and the main line of the road from Swan Hill. So this must have been the old Kerang settlement, and on several maps I've found that the name Torringutton has been marked, but there's been no, I have not found any clues as to whether or not it was officially called this back then. There's no gazetting of it or anything like that. So it must have just been known as that enough for a map maker to put the name on there. So very interesting that that is what it may have been called back in the 1840s to the 1860s. Okay, and then from there, the map continues on to the north, which is to the left, and you'll see the main road from towards Swan Hill is up there, where the turnoff down the old Kerang Road comes to what I'm thinking is called as the Torringutton Township. But we go further along, and you'll see here on this map that the current Kerang Township had begun by the time this map was being produced. But the bridge over the Loddon is not marked. So that was built by Woodford Patchell probably in the early 1850s. And so this map, I'm sort of guessing around about the early 1850s, between 1850 and 1853 or so, because I think that's when he built the bridge. So the town streets are laid out there, some of them at least: Nolan Street, Fitzroy Street, Victoria Street, Albert Street, Boundary Street, and the crossing streets. And you'll see up here Police Paddock and Police Station is marked there. That was on the north end of town back in the old days, up near where the hospital is now. But the map isn't quite right with that, the orientation of it. But you'll find that with most of these old maps, that some things are a little bit out, but we can certainly cut them a bit of slack in that regard, considering what they had at their disposal to make these maps back in the 1860s. So anyway, that is the extent of this map, and you'll see another map. It continues from here up to Swan Hill, which I'll move on to next. And so thank you so far for listening and watching, and we'll continue on when I get that next map up. Continuing on from the previous map, we've now got this one, which I also found at the same time. It's another survey of the area between Kerang and Swan Hill. Back then, of course, Swan Hill was known as Castle Donington, and became Swan Hill a bit later on. So again, we've got features on this map which show some of the stuff about it. It's a survey showing the lower part of the Loddon River, showing its confluence with backwaters of the Murray River, which we now know as the Little Murray, is where the Loddon runs into the Murray system. And the part of the latter to its junction with Mr. Townsend's survey. So again, we've got Mr. Burkhardt, year 1848, written in pencil on this map. But of course, this map was made well after 1848, because a lot of the streets, etc., that are shown on the map would never have existed until the late 1850s. So on the right-hand side, again, we've got an east-west orientation from the upper to the lower of this map, and the right-hand side is the south, the left-hand side is the north. So on the bottom of this map, we've got Bale Bale and Lake Bale Bale and the marsh, and you'll see tracking into it from below as what was called then the Wimmera River. It became known as the Avoca River later on, I think. So that is the lake where the Avoca flows into Lake Bale Bale, and across we go further to the east from there, and we come to the Loddon River on the right hand side here, as just coming out of the northern edges of Kerang and been continuing on. Now this is extremely interesting, where we get to Reedy Lake, And of course, back then it was called several different spellings of this, but this one has got it as Buggerumpert. Buggerumpert. I've also seen it called Buggerollypert and Buggerollypuat, but we don't know exactly which one is correct. Are we thinking that it is an Aboriginal name for the lake, and it became known later as Reedy Lake, which has got written on there? The homestead for Reedy Lake Station is marked on the north, well, not in the north, the eastern northeastern corner of there, and you'll see down on the what is now the highway side, Lewis and Campbell's homestead marked. So they must have had a homestead there just to the west of Reedy Lake at some stage. So we continue on to the north, and we go along past the other two reedies, which are just marked as marsh on there, and then we come to Lake Charm, and it is also quite well marked. And of course, Racecourse Lake back in those days was a dry bed, and so is Lake Kangaroo, dry bed of lake, and then the road to Swan Hill passed, as you can see, right through the dry lake bed of Lake Kangaroo. And then of course we've got more marshes, etc., which would have been Touchy-Wop up here, and of course the river itself is marked along above, and you'll see to the east of Reedy Lake there's a track marked as heading towards Gunbower Station, or the Gunbower Creek, and Campbell Station is marked there, so there must have been a ford crossing or something across the river there back then. So we continue on to the north, and we come to Touchy-Wop area, and then we come towards, there's Benjaroop, spelt differently of course. Many spellings are different in different maps back in these days, but another Lewis and Campbell hut there at Benjaroop, so they were very widespread with their building of huts. Thomas Mitchell's encampment in June 1836 is marked there on the river getting up towards Lake Boga. He called it Lake Boga, but it's very interesting on this map. When we come to Lake Boga, it's called Coram Chanook, and Lake Boga of Sir Thomas Mitchell. So it's interesting to find out where that name comes from, and if anybody knows of any modern day explanation of that name, whether it was a Aboriginal name or what, we don't really know. So you can see the highway coming through past Lake Boga, heading towards towards Swan Hill, Lake Baker, which is not really much of a lake anymore. And we come into the township of Castle Donington on the Murray, where the Little Murray joins up with the Murray River. And so that is now modern day Swan Hill. And back then, of course, it was called Castle Donington. So extremely interesting map. As you can see, there's a bit of colour on it, and it's quite an amazing piece of history. It shows further up into New South Wales some other features such as station houses, etc., and notes and so on. So this is available at the Public Record Office in Melbourne. If you go to that website and type in Loddon as your search, you will eventually find this map if you want to see it for yourself. So thank you for watching.